The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 202 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker, the show that actually gets it right and reveals the truth instead of just being honest with lazy opinions. Please share this podcast on all social media networks, and thanks very much. I'm Taylor Phillips, live from my basement apartment office in the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan, on a special Saturday night due to technical issues the night before, and with me on Facebook Messenger audio, as always, is my co-host, Ed Smith. Thanks so much for being on here with me. How are you?
Well, wonderful, well-rested, and just quite frankly, ready to get things going and started. It's been a bit of loaded Saturday night already, as is. Dealing what we saw regarding on the hard floor regarding Michigan State and the Pistons. Not to mention later on tonight in combat sport with UFC 196 currently going on, with the main event being Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. But enough of the chit chat and outside talk. Let's get to what's really what we're all here to see and hear about, and the main topics. That is the main topics regarding Detroit sports.
Absolutely. So since we're a day late, but no penny short, we're still going to recap the Tigers splits the preseason games, spring training. But first we're going to look over an article from Anthony Fedek about Tiger center fielder Anthony Gose labeling defensive metrics a scam. So why don't we go ahead and get to that?
That one is long gone.
Well, Anthony Fedek heard from Tiger center fielder Anthony Gose that defensive metrics was a scam, quote unquote. He says he could not care less. I think that whole analytics thing is a big scam anyways. I feel like I'm one of the better center fielders in the game. I could not care less what some analytics thing says. Some guy putting numbers in a computer, I mean, things are a lot different when you're out there playing than just sitting back behind a computer. So I think it's a big scam. It's a way to make money. That's what I think. It is what it is. I mean, I guess it's a good gig. I guess you can see how much of a fan of that I am, quote unquote. I don't know. Even he's trying to make it. He's trying to make his point, but he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Metrics is not a scam. Metrics is advanced math, advanced statistics. That's even more valuable than what players and fans think.
I really don't know what was going through his mind when he said this, before he said this, and especially after he said it. With Gose is, he could call himself, I appreciate the self-confidence in him saying, oh, I'm one of the best field fielders in the game. But let's cut straight to the facts. He's not Lorenzo Cain. He's not a Josh Donaldson. He's sure as hell not a Mike Trout. He can be good. He has okay speed. He can give you some good stolen bases, but he has things to work on regarding both his hitting and especially his defense. There's a reason why some of the advanced metrics had him defensively had his defense at the stats that they were, because he had some pretty ineffective and or negative plays in the outfield. Hopefully that can change better this year. But numbers do speak for themselves. It's not necessarily, it can't be all, obviously, I get it. It can't be one or the other. Sometimes you got to factor in a little bit of the eye test. But I wouldn't be so confident in the eye test factor when the guy championing your cause is Brad Ausmus. I'm just saying. So, for Gose, he has the right to his opinion, speaking on the matter, but he's got to be very careful with it, because whether he wants to admit it or not, believe it or not, advanced metrics is a crucial part of today's game, period, and quite frankly in all sports. In this day and age, with technology around as it is, you need to know the up and up on all your opponents, all your schemes, strategies, whatnot, and figure out the best ways and the best players and whatnot that can help you be prepared from day-to-day operations on setting up game plans to win games. And for Gose to just completely disregard that as something as a measly scam is insulting to anyone's intelligence. It really is.
Don't you think I know that?
That's exactly true. And now fans are agreeing to what Anthony Gose is saying. Donald Sonk, S-O-N-C-K, in the comments on this article, all those geeky analytics are mostly a bunch of BS. Who can objectively and accurately gauge wins above replacements aside from the scouts and team officials who watch a team play 162 games each season? I could give a hoot about WHIP, that's walks, hits, and innings, and walks and hits per innings pitched. Can a pitcher get a batter's out or not? The save as defined now has been another joke for 30 plus years. A joke. What does that mean?
Are you out of your mind?
I don't know. I think it's. I guess you could say. How could I phrase this politely? I guess you get someone who probably in the old school has an old school mindset of going solely on what you see on the field by the eye test instead of just looking between the lines and reading. Go beyond the basics.
Oh my God.
Go beyond the basic stats and read between the lines here. But they just refuse to do that. Either they think, again, I think it's just their mentality or just stubborn nature. I don't know what it is, but those are the only two.
This always happens. Second here. All right.
Don't worry, I was just finishing up my thoughts before the connection cut out. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you still have to finish them on the air. That's understand that way people understand.
Yeah, it's just more so, I guess, how you were raised, brought up watching the game, and how it helps molds your mentality regarding certain phases, and how your nature is almost stubborn to change. I think that's just an example of what we see here regarding certain fans when it comes to sabermetrics.
Yeah, absolutely. Continuing on here, a pitcher who comes into the ninth inning with a 3-run lead had damn well better not give up 3 or more runs, and that qualifies as a save. I completely agree with Gose. Much of it is a money-making scam. Oh my God. See, this is one example of fans catering to an arrogant and insulting player in Anthony Gose in this situation. Continuing on with this comment, just look how many teams now have these dudes in their front office. How much are they really contributing to the success of a franchise? Who's determining their value? And Ryan Krause replied, "Whip, walks and hits per innings pitched, isn't even an advanced analytic. It's arguably the most important basic stat that tells of a pitcher can get outs or not. Saying whip is an advanced analytic is like saying ERA is one." There's one I agree. There's one comment I agree with.
Yeah, I definitely in agreement with that one, especially regarding the issue of whip.
And then Christopher DePoy, Gose is a great example of how defensive metrics are a complete joke. There's another dunderhead comment here. Gose does a number of things well, throws very well, if not accurately, gets superb jumps on balls, plays a shallow center, which shows confidence on his ability to go back on balls. He's way better than Austin Jackson, who might be the worst center fielder I've ever seen the major league level going back on balls. Yet I'm sure Jackson's defensive metrics were probably better. Like I said, a joke. Well, your comment, Christopher DePoy, was a joke. Was bigger of a joke than defensive metrics can ever be. Defensive metrics, like we said, it's a very important statistic in today's game. And then Steve Galgal commented, "I agree. I think all the metrics are a sham or a scam. Better spelled. Give me a break. Just total idiocy in those comments. Tradition should be the measurement. Tradition should be the measurement. What in the hell does that mean?
Maybe these people were listening to too much Carson Anderson. That's the only thing I can gather from this. Just this this wave of stupidity.
I mean, Carson Anderson, they're trying to be as professional as they can be, but I don't think they're professional enough, in my opinion. And neither are those fans that cater to those two idiots on that dumb radio show from 10 to 2 on 97.1 The Ticket, which is an abortion of a sports radio station.
You know, it's really, if it wasn't for the fact that they had the Tigers to begin with, I really doubt that 97 would be getting the ratings that they would on a month-to-month basis or year-to-year basis.
Yeah. Lila Rose from Northern Michigan University said, I agree totally with Gose. Another garbage science to make a simple game a mathematical exercise? Oh, boy.
Well, I think math is a very important part of baseball, so why not use it to your advantage?
Exactly, Lila.
Using metrics is a great help in using math to your advantage.
Yeah, you morons. David, let's see. David Broden, if the MLB network would stop giving airtime to these anti-baseball guys, we could get back to enjoying the game it was meant to be enjoyed. I don't know where he's going with that.
He's probably mentioning on how sometimes I will admit there are extremists on the side of things regarding metrics. I do think Brian Kenny goes a little, who's an analyst on MLB Network. He does go a little bit overboard. Where it was kill the win, kill the save, something like that with that nature. I think he goes a little bit overboard regarding his stance on supporting sabermetrics, but still, not everyone on that network is the same. They just bring it up as a helpful stat to indicate the worth and value of a player. I mean, it's not necessarily, it doesn't get any more basic than that, in my opinion.
Right. Nick Firth, Fuerth, commented, "What tune on analytics would be singing if his runs were saved if his runs saved were plus 20 and his defensive WAR was plus 3? Someone in Tiger Town watched all his defensive innings last year and then traded for Maben in the offseason. May or may not be casually related to Gose's defensive metrics." Denny Kraft commented from Sioux Area High School. My favorite defensive metric is RDMFBBCOWOPBHHGOM percentage. Running down missed fly ball by corner who is only playing because he has a good offensive metric. That's kind of like putting it in a stupid Mary Poppins kind of word. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Nice try, Denny.
Clever.
Yep. Dale Morris, UZR. Those are the letters. Has a lot of human error in the formula, which Fangraphs freely admits. It's very subjective information. Brian Voss, so by what I read, Ghost isn't fast enough to play center. Moneyball works whether players like it or not. Carl Thomas replied, the overall approach might be useful, but that's not to say defensive metrics are flawed. I can't for the life of me imagine how one could operationalize defensive performance. How do you judge whether a guy should have caught a ball or stopped a runner from advancing? How do you factor in strategy? If a manager preaches to keep runners from advancing to second on a throw from the or whatever, how do you differentiate performance against a guy trying to throw runners out? I'll trust the eyeball test all day over defensive metrics. Having said that, Ghost does need to work on getting better at jumps and needs to be better at using his arm. His arm strength to his advantage more, but he's still an above average CFP with loader of untapped potential.
See, that person just contradicted themselves. They wants to disregard the sabermetrics standings, sabermetrics questions and whatnot, yet still acknowledges that, hey, Ghost may need some work in terms of getting good jumps on balls and things. So which one is it? You can't be saying one thing and then acknowledge another thing. It's got to be one or the other here. Either you say, hey, screw the good at analytics crap, or just say, hey, you know what, Ghost probably was a bit incorrect on this issue, and just see it, use it as a way to help himself improve upon his own performance.
Yeah, and Ghost was incorrect. He was being arrogant. Christopher DePoy replied in also. What a troll. What a troll DePoy is. Yeah, Moneyball worked really well for Oakland last year, the Athletics. It all comes down to players performing. How? How do they perform, Chris? Brian Voss from Grand Rapids Community College wrote in, Christopher DePoy, the Tigers won what? 6 more games than Oakland last year and spent how much more? John Friday from Special Product Consultant at Velasquez replied, Moneyball works. Give us a list of the World Series Oakland has had since they started it. And then Carl Kalaga said, all this science stuff is just geeks trying to be relevant. This Earthers round and other such nonsense. Yeah, there's another non-believer. Here's another non-believer. Jake Gibbs, amen. Scam is a very good way to describe defensive metrics. Hey, Jake, slap yourself in the face and go back to school, please. Go back to college if you have to. Marianne Plasic Milani, Chet Lemon, he ain't. Ain't is not a word, Marianne. You southern hick. Probably better than Ron LaFleur, though. I'm not Christopher DePoy replies, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming Chet's defensive metrics would be rather poor. He wasn't fast and had a rather meh arm. Ghost actually is better in both of those two areas than than Chester. Chester? You mean Chet? Yeah, but Christopher DuPois is just one of those idiots that is as arrogant as Anthony Gose himself. Joe Burton. Computers do what they do except play the real game, not gamers. That's another non-believer.
Maybe some of these non-believers should just go back to school themselves.
Yeah, all of them.
I think that just about covers it.
Yeah, I got 3 more. They're very quick, don't worry. T.R. Hardenberg. Not buying any of it. Moneyball has not proven since 1980s. Just stupid. Bob Tiffin works at CTV Kitchener. I couldn't care less. Head shake. Gary Winter replied, I could or couldn't care less how it is said. It's I could care less. Dave Arendt from Ferris State University, just play ball. And then I commented, and just to chip in, metrics is somewhat difficult math for you people to solve, but it's not a scam. In fact, it's obviously useful, and General Manager Al Avila is very focused on it. Which is the truth. If you disagree with them, you're just not even trying to solve them. A scam is something that a person takes advantage of by stealing money and your identity from you. That's way different from math. Just try to solve those metrics out for once. Come on, it doesn't hurt. And then Chris DuPois trolled me. Taylor, defensive metrics are a joke. Scam might not be the word I have chosen, but any analytics that Ben Zobrist as a great player due to his wins above replacement is beyond a joke. Well, at least he agreed with me on one thing, but he's still as arrogant as Anthony Gose. And then I replied, they're not a joke. You, just like many imbecilic Tigers fans, are just being ignorant triflers. How in the hell can you say that? Defensive metrics are way more valuable than a joke. They're way more valuable than you ever think. And then John Friday butted in. You know what stat really matters. Wins. But how do you win, John? And then he goes on. Of course, it is only a moron who obsesses over war or offensive war or defensive war or other unimportant stats. Hey, John, you're calling me a moron? Who the hell do you think you're dealing with, Johnny boy? Let's look at the best WAR player on the team that won the World Series last year. His WAR was not even top 10 in the league. If you add it all up, the numbers should make KC number 1 in WAR, and that is not the case. It proves your statistics do not measure what really matters, winning. Your statistics. Oh, you're talking about my statistics now. What do you think? I made them up? No. I did not make them up. They are not made up. They're math, John Friday. Understand it for yourself. By the way, the team that started this whole advanced analytics, the A's, how many championships have they won since they started? Hint: it is 0. It is the same thinking that said Tom Brady's NFL Combine numbers made him a 6th-round pick and the 7th QB taken in that draft. And then I replied, a moron, you better watch what you say. Those are not my statistics. And then I made a conclusion, what stands to be a conclusion statement. Such lazy imbecile sheep. Just go away.
A lot of these people need a lot of convincing.
Yeah.
Maybe if they see the Tigers crap out and miss the playoffs again this year, maybe that'll be their wake-up call.
Mm-hmm. Just 1 minute here. All right. So, again, Anthony Gose calling defensive metrics a scam, quote unquote. He says he could or could not care less. The whole analytics thing is a big scam anyway, quote unquote. Anthony Gose needs to realize that Al Avila is the general manager and he is focusing on analytics, which is actually better than all those Sap fans in Detroit think, and in the state of Michigan as well.
It's quite puzzling when you have the GM of a team say that, we need to focus more on analytics because we never had a department to begin with. Now we're trying to get caught up. But then one of the players comes out and denies, but basically says that an aspect of analytics is an outright scam. It's confusing, and I'm not sure that was actually the smart thing for Ghost to say.
Yeah, and some of the fans are agreeing with Ghost's scam comment on defensive metrics.
Yeah, and they want to bring up the fact, the A's, they didn't win all day. How many world titles have they won since they implemented this? Okay, how about this? Let me turn this back on for you. How many world titles have the Tigers won since 1984?
None.
Don't worry, I'll wait. Exactly.
0 world championships since 1984. They won 2 American League championships, 4 straight American League Central Division titles. We get that, but still, you have to win the World Series. None of this AL Central or AL Championship crap matters if you don't win the World Series. Did Jim Leyland lead the Tigers to 2 American League championships without metrics? Yes, but he did. But did he win a World Series without metrics? No. That's my point. That's the point I was trying to get across to these guys. And I'll get to those, and I will comment that point again after the end of the show. So, split squad action on Wednesday. They lose in Tampa to the Yankees 10-9 despite a grand slam from Brian Holiday, but they won 10-3 over the Pirates in Clearwater. They beat the Braves 8-2 in Orlando at Walt Disney World, or Wally World, if some people want to call it. They shut out the Yankees 3-0 on a Miguel Cabrera 3-run home run in Lakeland on Friday, and then earlier today, Saturday, they lost to the Nationals on the road 8-4, despite 2 home runs from Brian Holiday. Brian Holiday's been on fire. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He's continuing to show why he should have gotten as much more playing time as he has gotten over the past couple of years. That's for sure.
That's right. So tomorrow, that's Sunday, they return to Lakeland and play the Miami Marlins, and then they visit the New York Mets on Monday, and then they play the Tampa Bay Rays in Lakeland on Tuesday. All those games start at 1. So with that, we will transition to the Red Wings now. The Red Wings lost to the Chicago Blackhawks 5-2 at Joe Louis Arena on NBC. They totally self-destructed in that game. Nicholas Kronwall was so pathetic in that game that he was the ultimate GOAT on the roster compared to Jonathan Ericsson. Kronwall took a stupid penalty when the Blackhawks were on the power play in the second period with fearful captain Henrik Zetterberg in the box. And Chicago scored 2 power play goals on those 2 power play chances. The first one coming on a 5-on-3 power play when Luke Glendening and Justin Abdelkader were way out near the blue line, leaving Danny DeKeyser alone in the slot while he was being abused by one of the other Blackhawk players, forecheckers, if you may. While he and Peter Mrazek were outnumbered, and Artemi Panarin easily took advantage on a one-timer toward an empty net, and that was a mistake on the entire penalty-killing unit that made it 2-0 in favor of the Blackhawks. And then Patrick Kane got the other power play goal, making it 3-0, which shows you how embarrassing this Red Wings roster in general continues to be on the ice, especially with Henrik Zetterberg, Luke Glendening, Justin Abdelkader, and especially the terrible defensive duo of Nicholas Kronwall and Jonathan Ericsson. The next night when I got home from Cadillac, I had this conversation with Red Wings advanced analyst Prashant Iyer from Winging It in Motown on Twitter at Iyer, I-Y-E-R, _ Prashant, P-R-A-S-H-A-N-T-H. When I found out that from Iyer that the Wings won't return to being a consistent Stanley Cup championship contender until they are free of both Kronwall and Eriksson, and that Kronwall and Eriksson are still on long-term contracts, which Iyer labeled them poison pill contracts. Kronwall's contract expires in 2019, and Eriksson's expires in 2020. I told them they can be terminated somehow, and Iyer replied and said, quote, "Not that easy. They both have no trade clauses," unquote. And I said, quote, "I didn't say trade them. I meant release them and make them UFAs," quote. And Iyer said, "Holland, quote, still can't do that because he'd have to buy them out. If Holland did that, their cap hits still count against him," unquote.
In other words, we're all screwed.
Yeah, until Aubrey Dyer on Twitter at ThePunisher1023, his username is OBS. His side username is OBS. Replied, "Could it be possible to buy one of them out instead of both?" Prashant Dyer said, "Potentially, but that still leaves you with one of them, which is better, I guess." "Better than both of them," said OBS. Said Aubrey Dyer. "Maybe, but buy one out 1 year and then buy the other out another year." Yeah, and I said, "That's what I had in mind."
I love it!
And then Aubrey went on, Unfortunately, neither of us run this team. Good old Kenny does, Ken Hahn. I don't think he'll do that until it's too late." And I said, "Because he's a frickin' dope, and he always will be." Aubrey said, "Sure looks like it. I think he has one last chance in the offseason to make this team a contender." I said, "He's got 2 more years in his contract." 2 more years in his contract. And then Aubrey replied to close out the conversation, "Well, depending on what he does this offseason, should decide whether he gets to complete those 2 years." So that was it. And then Prashant Iyer analyzed that the Wings aren't scoring as many goals as they did last season. He posts a picture to his quote to his tweet on Twitter that says, "They're in the red because they're not scoring as much as last season, giving them as many as last season, better grammar, giving them little margin for error. The Red Wings lead the league with 37 games decided by one goal. They're 21-5-11. And then he tweeted, a quick glance at NHL.com shows the following. Last year, 2.82 goals per game. This season thus far, 2.5 goals per game. Yes, scoring is down. But why is scoring down? He tweeted next. Let's break it down by situation. Start with 5-on-5. 5-on-5 shot attempts per game. Last year, 52.7. This year, 51.7. And then let me see here. HSCF. I need to look that up again. Okay. HS 5-on-5 HS shot attempts. 10.2 last year, 10.6 this year. 5-on-5 S shots attempt. 25.5 last year, 25.9 this year. 5-on-5 SF 60. 28.2 last year and this year thus far. 5-on-5 goals per game, 2.07 last year to 2.04 this year. 5-on-5 shorthanded shot percentage, 7.33 last year to 7.21 last year. And then from a 5-on-5 standpoint, this team is almost a carbon copy of last year's team in terms of offensive production. No issues with 5-on-5. Granted, 2.04 5-on-5 goals per game is towards the bottom of the NHL, but it's not significantly different from last year, which we think was amazing. And then he posts a picture looking at the power play. Prepare to shield your eyes. Power play shot attempts, 100.1 last year to 98.2 this year. Power play HSCF per game, 26.5 last year to 20.9 this year. Power play SCF per game, last year 56.6, this year 54.3. Power play S shots for per game, 54.3 last year to 53.1 this year. Power play goals per game, 8.81 last year to 6.12 this year. Ouch.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Power play SH percentage, 16.2 last year to 11.5 this year. So Prashant Iyer. So the number one difference for this team compared to last year is the power play. If you applied last year's power play goals per game to this year, the Wings would have 15 more goals this season, increasing their season average to 2.75 goals per game, which would be tied with Tampa Bay for 9th best in the NHL. Of course, you'll have people saying, "Look at Toronto's power play; it's 30th in the NHL." Hiller didn't matter that much. Toronto's power play averages 35.1 high danger scoring chances per 60 minutes. That's what HSC stands for. Yeah, that's right. High danger. Gotcha. So HSCF is high danger scoring chance percentage. Now I get now we get the drift. So for those of you who don't know it, HSCF is high danger scoring chance percentage per game. So in fact, anyway, as I was reading, the 35.1 high danger scoring chances per 60 minutes on the power play would be the best mark in the NHL since the start of the 07-08 season, where the Wings went on to win the Stanley Cup. Since the start of that season, 07-08, the Leafs power play has ranked number 1 in high danger scoring chance percentage per game, number 2 in scoring chance percentage per game as a whole, and number 3 in shot percentage per game. They've been robbed by a power play SH percentage of 8.9, third worst. So yeah, I think the Wings missed Jim Hiller big time, and I think Pat Ferschweiler should get the boot this offseason.
Yeah, it's well, if Prashant Iyer laid it out perfectly. If there was one big reason why you're seeing this Wings offense show great inconsistency, which is flat out not performing at certain nights, it's their power play. They're not getting enough chances. For goodness sake, they had 5 chances, 5 power play. What was it last week against Colorado, against the Avs in the Stadium Series game? Didn't convert on a single one. So you mean to tell me you get all those chances throughout one game, you can't convert on at least one power play? I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but for God's sakes, you have a man advantage for 2 minutes here. Sometimes you get 5 on 3. You can't do nothing with that. So that's one big reason why their offensive production is down this year compared to last year. And really, it also boils down to, yes, you have some good opportunities to go to waste. Whether you hit a post here, some bad luck there, shot gets blocked, you're not. But also it comes down to your coach not scheming it rightly in terms of your players, whether it be too much passing or not attacking the net enough. And it also goes back to your coaches in terms of not putting the right players out there for the proper unit.
Exactly.
Illogical.
And Jeff Blashill's moves have been illogical for most of the season. So
and that greatly explains it right there.
Mm-hmm. But continuing on, if the Leafs just had last season's power play SH percentage of 11.4, their power play would be operating at 18.2%, up to 18th from 30th. But even 11.4% would rank 26 in power play SH percentage. If you applied the league median of 12.6%, now their power play is at 20.1, making them 11th best. That's how many shots that they are generating. That's how many shots they are generating on their power play. Absolutely ridiculous. And then you can see some charts for Gustav Nyquist and Dylan Larkin next, if you take a look at them. And then he goes on. Since the All-Star break, Connor McDavid for the Edmonton Oilers, 5-on-5 high danger scoring chance relative percentage is plus 22.7%. That is absurd. He's averaging just under 2 high danger scoring chances per game. Translates to 8.30 individual 5-on-5 high danger chances per game. And then we are already now hearing that Brendan Smith is coming back. We heard earlier that from Prashant Iyer that the Wings are scratching Alexei Marchenko to bring back Brendan Smith.
Illogical.
I wish they could scratch Erickson or Cronwall.
Yeah, one of the two. You can't scratch both of them. I wish I could if I were the GM, but even I can't. But I would scratch Nicholas Cronwall, a healthy scratch, and then I would scratch Jonathan Erickson the next, and then Cronwall the next, and then the game thereafter, and then Erickson and Cronwall.
Just alternate as much as you can.
Yeah. Don't play them together. But since Jeff Blashill scratched Alexei Marchenko, that causes that Prashant Iyer said that causes Cronwall and Erickson to pair back up together somehow, and that's never good. So we want to thank Prashant Iyer for providing us all the advanced statistics, the advanced analytics, all the things that we need. That kind of made us and our podcast feel better.
Yeah, made things a lot easier to decipher.
Yep. So back to the Red Wings and Blackhawks. They rematch Sunday at 5. That's tomorrow at United Center on Fox Sports Detroit. So Brendan Smith is going to be back. Cronwall and Erickson are going to pair up, which can cause even more problems. I would predict the Blackhawks to win again 6-3 if Cronwall and Erickson continue to cause more problems, especially turning the puck over that proves them costly and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's bad enough turning over the puck in any sense, any form. But when you're doing it against a skilled team such as Chicago, you're just asking for it. And, when you combine that with the fact that your defense is not that very good to begin with, leaving your goaltender high and dry in some instances, it's going to make things look even worse than what they already were. So, I will save it for 5 questions, though, what my prediction will be on the game for Sunday, for sure. But it's not looking optimistic, to say the least.
Right. And then the Red Wings go to Columbus and play the Blue Jackets Tuesday at 7. Their first meeting, which was their previous, the Red Wings won 2-1 in a shootout at the Joe. Andres Athanasiou scoring the game winner. He has still been red hot after scoring 2 goals in Dallas last Monday. Back to Twitter here. I tweeted a couple days ago, #fire Ken Holland, and Dave Campbell on Twitter at DWC462 retweeted it and replied to me, quote, "Gotta get that trending," unquote. So I suggest we all start hashtagging Fire Ken Holland starting right now.
Gotcha.
So with that out of the way, this is why I love doing this podcast, by the way. We're going to transition to the Pistons now.
Left sideline, 3 and he answers.
Pistons went into San Antonio and they got overworked by the San Antonio Spurs, one of the better teams in the NBA, 97-81, which is understandable, but there were But that's because there were like a few mistakes being made.
Not a few.
No, not a few. Like many, rather. Like many mistakes. Turnovers. Too many fouls, I think. But
yeah, the fouls were an issue. Andre Drummond got in some early foul trouble. Got 2 fouls early on in the first quarter, which led to his early benching. So that didn't make things easier. I mean, granted, you know, the Pistons did give a inspired effort, I would say, throughout the first half. You know, they kept it as close as possible, especially with Drummond not getting that much court time. But eventually, when you're playing against a team like San Antonio, you have got to play consistent ball 48 minutes and then some. And the Pistons just couldn't do that. It showed greatly in the second half. Not just the turnovers, but just cold shooting, absolute cold shooting. Now, greatly. Now, in large part, that was due to San Antonio's defense, but some of the shots was just absolutely horrible. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was just he had a horrid night. Only scored 4 points. This is, you know, just couldn't get anything going, whether it be on the floor, in the air, or even at the free throw line a little bit. And when you combine that with the fact that not just Kawhi Leonard, but LaMarcus Aldridge, their newest key big addition from this past offseason, went at it. Those two going together, you don't need Tony Parker and Duncan. You know, that's another reason why the Spurs are such a deadly team, and they can kill you in so many ways. And this was just another example. Last time it was Tony Parker. This time it was Aldridge and Leonard. So combine that with the fact that they got their star players, they can rotate and take you out at will, with the fact that the Pistons themselves kept shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers and cold shooting, it led to, some would say, a predictable loss.
And speaking of those things, including a loss and cold shooting, the Pistons shot under 35%, like 34 and change percent in the first half of the Knicks game, which went down like a couple hours before this, like a couple to a few hours before this podcast. They lose 102-89 to Carmelo Anthony and the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. They just couldn't get the offense going, but they started an 11-3 run in the third quarter before the Knicks pulled away. Overall, Stan Van Gundy was just not a happy man, and of course he criticized his team, but the Pistons just continued to shoot cold, and their defense just wasn't there.
Oh, it wasn't. Aaron Aflalo, former Piston, by the way, thanks a lot, Joe DeMars, continued to haunt his former team yet again, contributing with 20 points of his own. That was just a key example of how the Pistons just weren't able to get anything going. Only 2 of their starters went double digits. Drummond with 21, Tobias Harris, keeping his consistency strong. He had 18. Everybody else was just cold. Marcus Morris, 5 points. Reggie Jackson, KCP, both with 8 points. Both not landing a single three-pointer. I mean, between all the 5 Pistons starters, they were combined 1 for 15. 1 for 15 from three-point range. Your 5 starters.
5 starters.
When that happens, you know, it's not going to end well for you to begin with. So you know, it's quite funny though. Even though the times I bust his balls and give him flack, Steve Blake actually showed up and contributed. Otherwise, this would have been even more of a lapper. He had 13 points off the bench. Did well with the second unit. He was even 3 for 5 from three-point range. Same thing with Reggie Bullock with 2 for 4. So it's nice to have contribution like that from your bench players, but where the hell do you need that from your starters? Your starting 5.
Yeah, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson's been in a real bad slump lately.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with He had a very solid first half. Now it's just getting a little questionable, to say the least. Maybe we're all waiting for Stanley Johnson to get back from his injury. I don't know. Maybe the same thing with Caldwell Pope, checking out the rest from his injury.
Got an update that Stanley Johnson suffered a setback, so he won't be coming back anytime soon, according to Detroit Bad Boys, and that's not good.
Yeah, that sucks because he was a guy with his length and his defense was providing some help of sorts. Now that we know we're not going to be having him back for a few more games at the very least, makes you very worried and nervous. And with the way they've been performing, they did a great job of winning 3-4 games in a row. Now they followed up with 2 straight clunkers, and now, as of this moment, they find themselves out of the. If the playoffs started today, the Pistons will be out because now they're currently a half game behind Chicago for the 8th spot in the East.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of the standings, going back to the Red Wings here, last time I checked, the Red Wings were in the wild card standings.
Yeah, and they still are, I believe.
Yep, they are. They're still in first place, 75 points. Yeah, but the Pistons not looking good for them. They dropped, as you said, they've dropped back to 9th place. Behind the Chicago Bulls. Pistons are 31-31. The Bulls are 31-30. The Wizards are 30-32. This is getting very tight here.
Yeah, and this is one of those games that the Pistons could have ill afforded to the loss because really the Knicks they aren't going anywhere themselves. Yeah, they got a rising star in Kristaps Porzingis, but right now they were 25 and 38. Now they're 26-38. Thanks a lot, guys. So this is one of those losses the Pistons could have ill afforded to
Still
have had.
in 13th place, may I add.
Yeah, and you can't lose to teams like this when you're trying to convince yourself that you're a playoff caliber team. And when you're winding down the season and you need those crucial wins to get a spot, catch up in the rankings, or even clinch a spot in the playoffs, you can't have losses like this. So this if they're not careful, this could come back to bite them in the ass in a big way.
Right. The Knicks, by the way, are still in it. Despite being in 13th place, they're only 6 games back of the Pistons, which is still close enough. The way we picture it, Brooklyn Nets though are pretty much done. 18-45, 27 games back. Sixers are eliminated from playoff contention. The only team to be eliminated from playoff contention thus far. Pistons, let me see. Look at the schedule here. Oh, yeah, they play the Portland Trailblazers Sunday at 6 on Fox Sports Detroit Plus, while the Wings play the Blackhawks at 5 on Fox Sports Detroit. Pistons and Trailblazers, by the way. Trailblazers are in 7th place, 33-30. Another evenly matched matchup.
That's another team fighting for their playoff lives of sorts. So someone's got to give here. This is a game between 2 teams that can ill afford to go on losing trends here late in the season. Portland, they have a 2-game losing streak of their own. So this is a big-time game for both teams in terms of their playoff hopes.
Yep, and then on Wednesday, they play the Dallas Mavericks at American Airlines Center at 8:30, and then Friday they go to Charlotte and play the Hornets at 7.
And now that is a game that must be circled because the Hornets currently they're one of the teams that are I believe are ahead of the Pistons. Yes, they are. They're currently in the 6th spot in the East, 2.5 games ahead of Detroit. So getting a win like this over a team that's ahead of you in head-to-head fashion would bolster your chances, and if it should have come down to a tiebreaker, perhaps, of you getting that last spot in over that other team.
Oh, the New Orleans Hornets? Not New Orleans, but Charlotte. I'm sorry. Yeah, Charlotte is in 6th place, 33-28. I'm sorry, I'm falling a little behind here, but the Charlotte Hornets, 33-28 in 6th place. one game ahead of the Indiana Pacers, who are 33-30. Dallas Mavericks in sixth place, 33-29 in the West. That's another evenly matchup. We'll preview more of the Mavericks and Hornets on episode 203 on Tuesday night. Now then, moving on to college basketball, we start with Michigan State.
Valentine for the win!
They led 43-42, 43-41 at halftime, somewhere around there. Yeah, 43-41 at Rutgers at halftime, and then they pulled away with a 97-66 victory. And then another tight first half between the Spartans and the Buckeyes Saturday afternoon. Then the Spartans sort of pull away. They still win 91-76. They sweep They sweep the season series over the Buckeyes to wrap up their season. They clinch the number 2 seed in the Big Ten Conference standings behind the Indiana Hoosiers, who win the Big Ten outright regular season championship. And of course, it was senior day at Breslin Center. Spartans, of course, were raining threes over the place. Bryn Forbes at Rutgers set a new record with 11 three-pointers.
Yeah, Bryn Forbes once again developing, in my opinion, himself into a potential steal in this year's NBA draft with his three-point shooting. Now, granted, in this game against the Buckeyes, he was a little bit off, going 1 for 6. But when you hit 11 threes in a game, my goodness, combined the fact that, this is building up what we saw him do against Michigan and amongst other teams leading up to this one. So really, this could be putting some draft scouters on notice here. So good for Forbes if that should happen. But as for tonight, granted, he wasn't quite as proficient as he usually is, but still, when you have a guy like Denzel Valentine that can back you up and go off on almost any night, you don't need to worry about that. So.
And then Michigan, on their senior night, lost to Iowa, 71-61. They were shooting cold, just like the Pistons were, and they got into some foul trouble as well, and they just couldn't quite keep up with the Hawkeyes, who were ranked, I believe, 16th or 18th in the conference. I couldn't read the screen.
16th.
Yeah,
16th in the nation, but a very solid record for them within the conference. But yeah, back to Michigan's standpoint, just oh my goodness! Like going into this one, they were projected by ESPN's Joe Lunardi as one of the last 4 teams in. After this performance, they gotta be one of the first 4 teams out, unless they, in my opinion, the way they performed all year. Unless they have a strong, and I do mean a strong showing in the Big Ten Conference tournament, they might very well miss out on the men's national tournament for the 2nd straight year in a row. And that's saying something. Considering this is a team this was coming beforehand, was going to back-to-back Elite 8 appearances, one of those was a Final Four national title game appearance. Now we're at the point where it's going into, like, you want to say, 2008 levels of where it was, the early years of John Beilein's term here, where you're seeing inefficient offense, terrible defense, and just flat out struggling on all sides of the court here. Yes, have no Karis LeVert, it hurts, but you should have capable guys here, and guys like Derek Walton, Zach Irvin, and Duncan Robinson, among others, and Muhammad Ali Abdul-Rahman, to maybe show some form of consistency and contribute, but they haven't here. It's been the case all season long, and quite frankly, it makes you question, can John Beilein start recruiting better now as opposed to what he did when he had guys like Trey Burke, like Mitch McGarry, Nick Stauskas, Glenn Robinson III, et cetera, come in and help. Now he really may have to help prove himself all over again, by getting better talent that's going to, not just shoot well, that's trademark of his teams, yes, but play better defense and show some life in the paint. If that doesn't happen, that I hate to say it, but it could come into question. It might bring some legitimacy to those questions of people saying, "Hey, maybe should he continue to have his job?" But it's something we got to think about one of these days here. If the team keeps continuing to perform like this.
Wednesday is the first round of the Big Ten tournament. Thursday, second round. Friday, quarterfinals. Saturday, semifinals. Sunday, Big Ten championship. Sunday, the Sunday's Big Ten championship game is on CBS at 3:00. Semifinals 1:00 and 3:30, both on CBS.
Yeah, and another thing of note, usually as the case always is, at the conclusion of the Big Ten tournament championship game on CBS, it usually leads right into the Selection Sunday show. So, quite interesting to see how things rank here and how all the Big Ten teams, especially the two teams in the state of Michigan, how they will rank, how they will hold up, how ultimately they will get selected at the conclusion of next week's tournament. If you're the Wolverines, you got to aim high, achieve big, and pray for luck. That's all I got to say about that. Michigan State's spot is secure. Really, some might argue they deserve possibly a number 1 seed. So they're fine. It's all about, can Michigan do anything, get something done here to put themselves in line to get selected, and not necessarily, not be a last 4 out or first 4 in, but just a solidified spot where you can rest for an extra day or two before playing your game.
So that covers college basketball, and yes, I agree. So last topic before 5 questions, and just a little quick note. The Lions here.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
They have signed Tyrunn Walker to a 1-year deal, which just keeps one member on the same roster.
Yeah, don't have to worry about going through too many changes from your roster standpoint on this one.
All right, well, it's time for 5 questions. Shall we, Ed?
Let him rip, Taylor.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1. Why do Tigers fans continue to ignore metrics in sports?
Maybe they're clinging on to what they saw Jim Leland do during his tenure, being dismissive over the uses of advanced sabermetrics and advanced mathematics in that regard. Maybe they're using that as their last form to cling on in a way to the long-time former manager. That's my only guess at this point, because I can't give you any reasonable explanation other than that.
Do I make myself clear? Next question.
Question number 2. Will the Red Wings get revenge, or will the Blackhawks sweep the home-and-home series?
We're going for the latter here. The Blackhawks, they're just a flat-out stronger, better, faster team in all shapes, all facets, really. Even if Peter Mrazek has a better game, I don't expect his defense to do well to have him better in better spots. So yes, Blackhawks all day. I say they win this one by at least 2 goals.
Yeah, especially with the repairing of Jonathan Ericsson and Nicholas Kronwall. That I'm going to blame that on Jeff Blashill if they lose here.
He freaking sucks.
Next question.
Question number 3. Are only Jonathan Ericsson and Nicholas Kronwall, speaking of whom, to blame for the Wings just barely making it to the playoffs, or is it mostly Ken Holland making stupid moves in the front office and keeping the players that sucked in the last 7 seasons now?
it's a combined effort. It's not just the player on the ice, but it's also the personnel, the front office, and obviously on the bench as well. With Jeff Blashill, if you're the coach, you've got to see what's in front of you. You've got to recognize what's been plaguing your team. And if there are better options available, and hint, spoiler alert, there are, why not go with them and take a chance here? Otherwise, you're just essentially giving away games here this late in the season.
When did you become so politically correct? Next question.
Question number 4. Which college basketball team in the state of Michigan will have more momentum at the end of the regular season going into the Big Ten championship tournament? I think that's an easy one here. I'd say that's Michigan State.
Absolutely. They are riding sky high right now. They closed out the season the way they did, was strong, outstanding teamwork and performance, great shooting, great defense, great coaching. That's all you need in this day and age of basketball here, and they had that in spades. So to see them going into the conference tournament, listen, if they win the conference title, okay, they pretty much have the number 1 seed shown up. But they really, at this point, they don't care what seed or spot that they get. They're focused on making another run to the Final Four. And the way they're talented, this team, I think they have a damn good shot of getting there.
Which leads me to question number 5.
Next question.
Will the Michigan State Spartans win the Big Ten tournament?
Tough to say.
I know they have to go through Indiana, but...
Yeah, you got to go through Indiana, potentially Iowa as well. They'll be close.
Yeah, State's looking for revenge against those Hawkeyes.
I'm gonna go on the side of caution, say no, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
All right, and for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That wraps up episode 202 of the Detroit Sports Truth, finally. Ed, thanks so much for your help. Thanks for rolling with the punches with me. And I'll talk to you Tuesday at 12:30 for episode 203.
Absolutely, Taylor. I'm looking forward to it.
And for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. We'll talk to you Tuesday at 12:30 for episode 203. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.